So, this was an idea that I had today
Okay.
was obviously schools need funding, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
universities like Harvard have these huge endowments that they're
Right.
able to use to help fund themselves. And then Saudi Arabia has like the sovereign wealth fund that's just all this oil money thrown together and they use the proceeds or whatever, right?
Okay.
What is stopping somebody from setting up a nonprofit hedge fund that takes in donations for, like, let's say Maine, for example, right?
Okay.
You go out and you go to the Alphons or you go to the Beans or you go to whoever has money that's from Maine and you say, we're going to set up a hedge fund that's going to invest, do private equity, do venture capital, earn returns, and then take a percentage of that returns and distribute it as gifts to schools every single year. And the fund will constantly grow, just
Uh-huh.
like an endowment fund. And so the amount of money we can distribute gets bigger and bigger. And you can start with just a county and do that. And then essentially move the money into a trust so that if a bad actor comes in and tries to steal the money or something, the trust can cut them off. But then you have like a board of trustees that's parents and teachers and all sort of things where if you can even get like 100 grand to a school, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference between hiring that extra person that they need for kids or
Yeah.
whatever. What is stopping people from doing
Starting
that?
off with the big hitters.
What is
Okay.
stopping people from doing that?
So the it's not the problem, right? Like schools need money, education needs money. Like that's not something people don't know.
Mm,
The thing is when private money comes in,
right.
a lot of that times that can come with stipulations. So you think about public education. Public education means it's in IDEA, like federal law, FAPE, free and appropriate public education for every single student.
Right.
When private money gets into that, they could theoretically be like, well, I don't want my money to fund education for these kids,
Mm,
or these kids are too expensive, even though the money's flowing. It's like, well, I don't want to spend money on this kid's wheelchair. I don't want to spend money updating this school building for accessibility. Like,
mm,
and then that kind of like gets murky if you like
right.
there could be stipulations. Then you can be like, well, this student's too expensive,
Right.
or this school's too expensive, so we're gonna stop funneling money towards this. And with private money comes private decisions,
Right.
and that's a slippery slope.
It's a super slippery
So
slope. It's one of the things I was thinking about is like it feels like when you're successful, right? The if you go out and you start a business or whatever and you make $100 million, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
People they get up and they move, right? And they go to where other people are that have $100 million.
Yeah.
And if you're from a small town, you staying there in that town and taking your $100 million and saying, well, I have all this money now and my kid's going to go through this education system. There was my my dad was telling me a story the other day about this guy who started a shipping company up here in Maine, and
Okay.
his kid got really into what did he get into? He got like really into like baseball or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the dad paid the money and built the baseball field that we all still
Yeah.
use. And then the kid got into hockey and decided, no, I'm a hockey player. So he built the rink right down the street from where that I grew up playing in. It used to be
Mm-hmm.
called after this family. And then the kid said, no, I'm a golfer. And my dad was talking to the guy and was like joking, like, now you got to build a golf course. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not
No.
doing that. But it's the thing of like, they don't stay, they move, and the money is not able to trickle out into the
I
community.
mean, and that's what's happening. Like that's now like schools in the United States are funded by property taxes.
Yes.
So you have, you know, a really wealthy area, let's say outside of Austin, and there's, doctors and Harvard surgeons and, lawyers and all these people who make a lot of money
Mm,
with very expensive houses. and those houses generate a lot of income, like
Mm,
property taxes, versus you have somebody in, maybe inner city Philadelphia where there's a lot of rental properties that don't generate a lot of income, but that's how schools are getting their money. But and it's just kind of like the problem, like compounds, like these like expensive schools keep getting bigger, like keep
right.
getting better because you have more money for more teachers, more resources, new buildings, and these school districts with not a lot of money, they're squeaking by, and people are like, well, this school is not a good school, so they're going to leave that community
Right.
and go somewhere else, and then so they're losing money.
Right.
And so I mean it's like already kind of, I mean that's what happens. And so it's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
I told this idea to my dad, and he was just like, well, look at what happened with Social Security. The whole idea behind it was there, the safety net, and like the funding and the investing is the easy part. The hard part is that getting people to not dip into it and dig into it and earmark funds for things they were never supposed to earmark them for. And just like over the years, just the fund was ransacked multiple times for things that had
right,
nothing to do with anything that the fund was for. And it's
right.
how do you protect against that? And it's like that's $1 million question.
And that is why we need the Department of Education,
Well, that was
which
like
is like a whole nother discussion. But I mean,
right. Well, that was my thought is like because who is going to be in office and what their ideas are and what their beliefs are and what their strategies are so out of your control to some degree of like, you can go out and vote and obviously everybody
right.
should. But if you had the ability to take more autonomy, at least on like a local level, right?
Hmm.
And create this safety net of whatever's going on down the street, it is what it is. But you
Right.
have this fund that is going to be some sort of that safety net that says like, okay,
Yeah, I mean, schools like take donations, like there's
right,
scholarship funds, and
right,
people will donate, for a gym or a track, or
yeah,
like there's like private money that comes in. But like I said, it's like a slippery slope when you have like a whole district or like a
yeah.
whole state
And my understanding is they can
kind of
earmark it and
relying
they
on.
can say like, I'll give you $10 million, but it has to go to this.
Right. Yeah. So like, a kid was like a really good football player, it'd be like, hey, football was a big part of our lives. We were at this school, like you guys need new turf, like we're gonna donate money for that.
Right.
Um, so
But then there can people say like, okay, yeah, turf is great, but we also, we need some resources for some of these kids.
yeah, I so Sean and I watch a lot of football, right?
Yeah,
And football players make an exorbitant amount of money.
so much money.
And so every year when like the contracts come out, or like whenever there's a discussion in our household about like these athletes making like $40 million to play, and I like
Yeah,
football, I get the entertainment value,
for
but
sure.
like you're making $40 million to play 16 games. Like
Hmm.
I used to work at a school that was like exclusively for special needs kids.
Hmm.
So autism, wheelchairs, like multiple disabilities, and our playground was awful, like
Yeah.
not accessible for half the school. So every time there's like a football player is like, oh, this sign a contract for like $50 million, and I'm like, and my school didn't have a playground, like, like just because they're expensive and nobody really wants to fund it.
Right. And honestly, your best hope is that some kid from that's like the brother of a kid that goes there makes it to the NFL because
Right.
then he knows
Yeah.
about it, right? Like that's
Right.
almost at some point you're like, oh, I guess fingers crossed somebody pulls it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I left that school, like we were like fundraising for like 3 years just to
Yeah.
like get like some sort of accessible sensory area for kids, and
Yeah.
like to update it too, because like they use it every day, but
Yeah.
just the
And
money's not there
and
to
what
be able
like
to do that.
what is the job? Like what are we doing if we have to go to people and beg for like the bare minimum that we need?
Yeah.
Like you have to
No.
justify why a kid needs a wheelchair. Like
Hmm.
he's not going anywhere. He's just gonna be where he is.
Yeah. And people think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like there are people out there that just like Well, like you can get real deep, but then it's like, well, are they contributing to society? And that's like a whole nother ableism conversation. But
Yeah. It's
yeah,
it's when I mean obviously I've been in sports and I've heard like it's I think a lot of it's the advice these kids get of when they get to the and the people that I know that have made it to professional sports or made some money in that way, right? The first thing they
yeah.
go is they scare you and they tell you like this money could go away tomorrow. You could lose it all tomorrow and they tell you about all these people that are bankrupt and they're on the streets and I was like, okay, yeah, that happens. But you would have to be pretty dumb to lose $100 million. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like giving 5 million is not going to bankrupt you. It's not.
No, I mean, and I give a lot of these players, like especially these big players, that a lot of them have foundations. They do camps, like I mean, there's
Yeah.
scholarship funds. Like they really are doing a lot. I think, especially like more recently,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's ridiculous when you like look at them and you're like, okay,
Yeah. They
do you really need that much money? No.
no. And this is the thing is like, could you have, is it okay to have $1 million? Sure. But you should have a
Yeah.
$1 million idea. Like that's the thing is I think that the number of ideas that are worth $1 million or rather the number of people that make $1 million on things of like, you know, influencing, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, yeah, it's it's a skill, I guess. It's a job, I guess, but it's sort of like debate of you can do it and really not contribute anything.
Yeah.
Like the art is the algorithm and learning the algorithm. And you contribute nothing, and yes, you can make $1 million doing that. Versus somebody who goes out there and maybe they invent a new kind of wheelchair that's
Hmm.
accessible for people that maybe have trouble moving their wheelchairs or something like that and then they make $1 million. Like who would we rather have the million, the guy who actually contributed something to society and made it
Right.
better versus the person who was like, oh, if my video's 10 seconds long and I start with this crazy scream in the front, I'll get my yeah.
Yeah. No, I know.
I mean, you would know that as an influencer yourself.
I mean, I've got like 30 people that watch my stories.
But we watch religiously because they're awesome.
You do, you do.
Every single one, and I watch the full thing. I love it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, it does take time. Like, and I've definitely not been as active as I have in the past because I mean, it takes time. You look at it and you're like, oh, think it's like
Yeah,
people think Instagram and thinks it's easy, but
yeah,
it does take time and effort and energy, and
yeah. And you gotta
especially if
like
you're doing all the fancy stuff.
right, and you like think of all the things you gotta do. Like your job is one of those jobs of when I was going into college, I was thinking about what I wanted to study, and one of the
Hmm.
things that came to mind for me was psychology because of my mom.
Yeah. Hmm.
And the reason I didn't pursue it was because I would need to be able to fix everyone. The idea that there are
Hmm.
people that I can't help, I wouldn't be able to go home and like just push that off at the end of the night. And
Yeah.
me,
Yeah,
that's
I
what's
understand that.
it's crazy about your job to me. That's like the hardest for me to like imagine doing is like there are kids that come to you that you can only help them so much. Like
Yeah.
and
Yeah. No,
that I couldn't do that.
I have a kid right now that has a stutter, and he's a high schooler, and that stutter might not get better, right? Like there are plenty of adults who live their whole adult life with a stutter, and that's just how it is. But so you're like, so what am I? Not what am I doing? Like
Right.
you help him in different strategies, and a lot of it's advocacy and things like that. But yeah, I mean, there are kids
Mhm.
like at my old school who like they 16, 17, 18 years old, and they did not speak and they will not speak. And that's not a bad thing. Like it's not like good or bad or anything. It's just that's just their life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of it's hard for a lot of parents, especially when they're like young, because they're like, "Will my kid ever speak?" When they're like 4 or 5, and you're like, "I can't predict the future. Like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I'll work my best. Like a lot of kids will, but there are some kids that won't. And like I said, it's not a bad thing, but it's just a difference.
Where do things like that come from? Things like stutters. Like how does that develop? in some
Well,
way?
this is not an area in speech that I
Okay.
am as knowledgeable at. It's like one
Yeah.
of the I didn't come across it much in
Okay.
my career thus far. It's not an area that I like specialize in, so to
Yeah.
speak. But
What
I
what
mean,
is
have
the
you heard the term like neurodiversity? Have you heard that term before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like the stuttering community is like starting to view stuttering as like a neurodivergence, where
Okay.
it's just a difference in your brain, and it's not necessarily like a disorder or like a
Mhm,
disability. It's just like a difference in like
mhm.
human nature.
Like how
Um,
some people are more anxious.
yeah,
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 your
or like
brain just like wired a
ADHD or
certain way.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But then stuttering can also come from like that emotional trauma can sometimes like
Right.
trigger it. Um, Grandma was talking about that. I don't know if you were around that one morning when Grandma was telling all these stories, but she mentioned that like when she was living at home when her mom was sick when she was a kid, she stuttered, and when she went to college, she stopped stuttering because she wasn't around all that stress.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, she like mentioned it like 4 or 5 times, so like it must have been important to her. But
She just snuck it right in there.
yeah, I
That's
don't know if it was
crazy.
snuck in there, but
That's
yeah,
so fascinating to me. Like how the body is able to adapt and be like so different. Like I was learning about people with ADHD of like how like yes, they have trouble focusing sometimes, but they also can be extremely focused
oh my god,
for bouts.
I know kids who like there will be a kid who's has an iPad. Okay,
Hmm.
he's on YouTube on the iPad, typing on the iPad at the same time as watching that video.
Hmm.
Then he's got a computer playing something totally different. And he's attending to all three of things like perfectly. He's like got them all timed up. He knows exactly what he's doing. Like it is insane. And you're like, how are you processing all of this information all at once?
Yeah.
And
Oh, we had
they
a
love it.
I had a goalie that she firstly was trying to get medication for her ADHD,
Hmm.
very severe ADHD, and it was impossible because like they told her after 2 years of trying to get this medication that she couldn't because she was too her grades were too good and she was too athletic.
Oh God.
And
Yeah.
I was like,
Hmm.
well, people with ADHD are famously dumb and unathletic. Like they just can't. And so that was like it was a whole thing. But what was very tough for her outside of hockey helped her during games because
Yeah.
there is so much to focus on that she was able to handle it very well and read the
People,
game perfectly.
yeah, people say that like ADHD is like it's like less that you're not taking in information and focusing on it. It's that you're taking in so much and you can't like block out the extra.
Yeah.
So like if you're like in a busy airport, you can't really focus on like the announcements because you're focusing on everything else. Because
Right.
there's like so much input coming into your brain and you're feeling it like
Ah,
all equally, essentially.
right.
But like, you and me were at the airport and you're like, I can ignore the family next to me and I can listen to like, hey, we're boarding now.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not an expert in ADHD, but
Yeah.
that's some of the things that I've heard.
Interesting.
But
It's so fast. I have to think that with all of these things, there's like a reason for them to exist. Like there was like creativity, for example, right?
mhm.
There was a very interesting I forget the name of the show, but it was like a survival show of like 20 people on an island, right? And they're all working together. And there was this one guy who was supposed to be fishing, and he did
Okay,
zero fishing for the first
okay,
week. And
okay.
people were
No
on him.
fish.
They're like, "We need to be fishing because there's nothing to eat." And there was two other guys that were fishing with him, and they were harpooning and they were getting the bare minimum. People were like, "If you don't start fishing, we're gonna have some problems."
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "Guys, I'm on top of it," and he wouldn't like
Mhm.
say anything. Well, day seven, he figured out how to make a net out of some materials on the island,
Uh-huh.
and he cast it out and he caught like 30 fish.
Right.
And somebody in the comments of the video had said this is like the perfect like explanation of the benefit of creativity. 6 out of
Mm.
the 7 days, it doesn't contribute anything to society and it kind of feel like a hindrance. But on that seventh day, it's the thing that saves the society and moves it forward. And I feel like with a
Yeah,
lot of these things of like, yeah, okay, for people, it can seem frustrating and annoying at times, but
right.
there is something that it does contribute that is necessary for society.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has like strengths and weaknesses, like
Mm,
whether you're neurodivergent or not.
right,
Um, that's just, I think, like the variety of being human.
right. Well, yeah, I think I look at how many people in with autism have gravitated to like AI and computing and all
Yeah,
the things that go on there that the amount of work they're able to put in and the way they're able to think very like the computer almost, it makes them these invaluable assets in that space.
yeah. I mean, like these kids will have like special interests, and they like know so much,
Mm.
so much. They're so smart. Like
It's yeah,
it's
it's what you
insane.
need.
Yeah,
It's what you
yeah,
need. Yeah, absolutely. It's just the learning to communicate, I think, with those people of they're thinking about the world different from me,
yeah.
but that doesn't mean like they're dumber than me.
No, there's something called like the double empathy problem, where people will try and get like autistic people to communicate like a neurotypical person, right?
Right.
There's like social skills group and be like, hey, when you're doing this, you have to have small talk and you have to ask this many questions and you have to make eye contact, which is dumb anyway. But it's not so much that like the autistic people don't know how to communicate with other people, because when they're with other autistics, the communication a lot of times is like pretty amazing. It's like the
Yeah.
neurotypicals that's like they don't understand like the way they're communicating. And so
Yeah.
there's just like this like not they're not butting heads, but there's like a disconnect because like
Yeah.
there's just two different ways to communicate. And some people will let
Yeah.
autistic people, they don't love small talk because they're like, I want to talk about the things that I like. And like neurotypical people are like so conditioned to be like, how's the weather? How are
Yeah.
you? How's your day?
And honestly, I would rather
And
hear
so it's
someone talk about their passion than have to
yeah,
go through like small talk like that.
yeah. But it's interesting because I think like so many, I mean, so many people are like, hey, you need to communicate like this person,
Yeah.
but really they know how to communicate. It's just
Yeah.
different than the mainstream, but that's not, it doesn't make it
Yeah.
bad.
And
It's not, there's not
it's
one way is not more right than the other.
right. It's like Spanish and English. It's just
Yeah,
a different way to talk. It doesn't
right.
make it's, it would be interesting to do a class that's like learn to communicate like someone who has autism, like learn to communicate that way
Yeah,
and
and
treat it
we
like that.
what when I was in grad school, we had to do are you familiar with like what AAC is?
No.
So alternative augmentative communication. So a lot of it's like a lot of times it looks like an iPad with like a communication app on it. If you've
Okay.
seen kids like
Yeah, I've seen
use a
those.
tablet to talk, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it looks like nowadays. But it can mean other things. But in grad school, we were like given a board with pictures and words, and you could only communicate with the pictures that you had.
Ooh.
And it's like really limiting
Ooh.
because you're like, okay, I have the word go, I have the word cookie, I have the word want. You have
Interesting.
maybe like 100 words, 50 words maybe,
Yeah.
and there's only so much you can say with that.
Yeah. That's almost like when
And
we had Latin in high school. Like they just didn't have words for everything and they're like, write about the TV. I'm like, well, how do I do that? They don't have TV. They don't have a word for electricity.
yeah, they don't
Yeah.
have Grey's Anatomy in
Yeah.
ancient Italy.
Yeah, like moving art wall, I guess is the word I'm going to use to like try to describe this thing.
But yeah, I mean, that is
That's
a problem that a lot of these kids have is that they just, they don't have the words verbally.
hmm,
And a lot of these kids don't have access to the words that they want, even if they do have like a communication device.
yeah. So
And so,
when
go
you're
ahead.
working with them, what is your strategy? Like, how do you start to build that rapport? How do you go about working with them?
With kids who are like non speaking.
Yeah, or just like limited in some way in how they can communicate.
So what I focus on is what we call total communication. So what that could be verbal speech. Sorry, I've got Bailey's toys on my finger. Um, like verbal speech, that could be sign language, that can be vocalizations, that could be shared looks, that can be gestures, like body language. It can also be like a communication device. So pretty much we look at them and we're all communicating somehow, some way, all of the time.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, if they're hungry, are they, making a vocalization? Are they trying to reach their lunchbox? Are they pointing? Are they, making a sound that sounds like lunch? Are they signing eat? So you're just like, look, you do a lot of observation and you just have to get to know them really well. And then you look, and then when you have like a device in front of them, you always try and start, most of the time, you should start with like the most robust option because then you have the most words available.
Okay.
So a lot of times in the past it's been like, okay, you should start with like 3 words and see how they do, but then that kid only has 3 words. But if you start with like, 200 words, and automatically they have so much, and the communication is like so much more open, and then they can communicate more, and when they can communicate more, they get excited and they want to communicate more.
Right.
I really want, I like to build, like, for kids, my goal is to get them to want to communicate,
Okay.
because if they don't want to, they're not going to. So you have to
Right.
build the motivation and the engagement and the
Interesting.
attention and
Right. Is there a lot of like mirroring involved of like trying to,
what they're doing.
yeah.
Yeah. Model. So if the kid, go back to the lunch example, if the kid's hungry and they're like trying to put at their lunchbox, oh, I'm hungry. Let's eat lunch. Or you model on their device, hungry, I want a sandwich.
Okay.
And so you're just giving the language. And you do that with babies too. Like, it's interesting, like, Bailey's 9 months old.
Yeah.
And so she's babbling, she's like making sounds, and she's doing like da 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 da. And so then we start being like, oh, dada, like you're making a sound. I'm gonna map it to dad.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I said dada, that means dad. So you're doing that all of the time with kids as they grow up. But when you get a kid who's a little bit older, all of a sudden it's wrong.
Yeah. What is it like having a like a baby given your background? Because a lot of your background is about like hitting those benchmarks.
I It is interesting, especially now because she's like starting to make noises.
Yeah.
Um, like at daycare, they taught her the sign for more. So then
Oh.
at dinner, she's just like signing more. And I was like, I didn't teach you that. Um, or like she's like starting to like put her arms up if she wants to be like picked up. So that is interesting. I mean, she's like hit milestones right on target. So like I haven't really done anything special. We
Yeah.
just like talk to her and play with her and hang out with her. Um, but it is interesting because you like do like see those wheels turn and you're like, oh, she like figured that out, and you could like see her thinking through it almost.
I remember as a kid wondering like how do babies learn multiple languages? And people just like, yeah, one parent just speaks one language and the
Mm-hmm.
other speaks the other, and that's it. And to think
Yeah,
that like just
their
how your
brain is
brain
like
is able,
so plastic.
it's
Like,
incredible
yeah.
that you can see them figuring it out
Hmm.
of in real time, see her over time, like figuring out how you guys are talking and knowing
Yeah.
that in like 10 years, she's just going to be some sort of combination of you two and how you speak.
I remember like when she like learned to clap, I have like a video of her, and like I'm clapping and she's like sitting there with her hands in front of her, just like staring at me. And then she like looks back at her hands and stares, and she like claps, and then she gets excited. And you're like, she's like, I want to do this. I'm going to figure it out.
My mom does a clap whenever something exciting happens in sports. It's like that, and it annoys my dad so much, and they get into fights about it. I do that clap every time something exciting happens, and I'm like, oh
That's so
man,
funny.
that's my mom.
It's like a golf clap.
Okay, so this is a good segue. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was I had seen this. video talking about how a generation of kids who grew up watching a lot of sitcoms,
Mhm.
not like, you know, binge watching sitcoms, whatever, and was talking about how on sitcoms, actors are big. Obviously, that's how you
Mhm.
act. You act big emotions,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that their how they act and how they present and their emotions always match their words. So like if they
Okay.
scream and they say I'm angry, they're angry, and it always syncs up.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Versus in
Yeah.
real life, that's not really how people talk. It's very
No.
much more monotone. The emotions are much more subtle. And one of the things that
Mhm.
they were, this was not a proven thing, but they were proposing was that sometimes that it could potentially be stunting the growth of kids to see such big performances all the time and be binging that as a large part of their social interactions. And
Mhm.
what I had wondered from you is you're seeing a generation that not only has that, but has TikTok and Instagram. And I've seen all these things, like even now, just understanding the lingo of these kids. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. And I'm not
No.
that much older than them. I have no
No.
idea what they're saying half the time.
Mm-mm. You want to know something scary? As a side note, I have high schoolers right now, and one of my sophomores said today that he was born in 2009. Like you're in high school and you're born in
2009?
2009?
I was in middle
Anyway,
school. That's
I know.
insane.
I know. Anyway, sorry. What you were saying.
No, that's really throwing me for a loop now. I was at the university the other day and I saw kids walking through that are freshmen now. And I was thinking back, I was like, when I was starting my freshman year, these kids were second, first grade, maybe. And
Yeah.
now they're here, full adults off on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something like that.
something like that. But what I was wondering was like, how does this, like, how does social media and how people interact and communicate on there play into your job and like, how you help these kids communicate? Because that itself has become its own, communication.
Gosh, I that's a big question, Sam. I'm just a lonely speech therapist trying my best. I mean, I don't I mean, definitely like people say that you, like really young kids, their attention span is like smaller because it's just like that instant gratification. I mean, but we
Yeah,
know that about like what young adults, millennials too. Like
for sure.
you
All of
watch a
us are a
video for
little
10
from it.
seconds and you just keep going.
Yeah.
Um, there are parents out there who do rely on screen time
Mm,
to teach their kids how to talk. They'll be like, "Oh, my kid has a delay," and they'll like post on Facebook and like groups will be like, "Hey, like my kid isn't talking. Like, is there anything we can do?" And people will be like, "Oh, just watch this show," and I won't name it, but it's very popular. Um, as like instead of being like, "Hey, you should go see a speech therapist," it's like, "Oh, go
right.
put on this show. They'll teach your kid how to talk."
Right.
And or like apps could be like, "Hey, download this app. It'll teach your kid how to talk."
Yeah.
And do kids pick up language like that? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But like it works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I mean, at the end of the day, there's not a replacement for learning language from other people.
Yeah.
Because what you said about like this, like it was screens, like on a sitcom, you're getting the sad people making a sad reaction, the mad people making like using language that matches that. But in real life, people don't do that.
Mm.
Like you go throughout your day and you might have a really bad day and you're like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm great. How are you? And like inside you're dying.
Yeah.
Um, or like you've got like tears in your eyes. You're just like, no, I'm fine.
Just holding it together.
Everything's fine.
I
Um,
it always blows my mind of I was talking to my mom about this of I see so many people, I'll go on TikTok, right? And I'll see
mhm,
someone being like, so this happened to me today. And they tell this story, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is incredibly weird that because I don't know this person. They live
mhm,
5 states away from me. I will never see this person again. I have no idea who they are. And they're talking to me as if I'm their best friend. And they're telling me about the worst thing that's happened to them in a long time and how they're struggling. And it's so fascinating to me because in my mind, you would go to somebody about that. Like if that was how I was feeling, I'd go talk to one of my friends or my mom or
Hmm.
somebody. I wouldn't go to the internet. And
Right.
slowly realizing like that is the internet to them. Like TikTok is those people. It's their
I also
friend.
think it's, I mean, I'll talk about some stuff on social media that I don't necessarily have conversations with in real life because I think sometimes it's like safer
Oh,
to
okay.
talk to the void because you've got all these people who do not know you and they're not going to meet you. They're not going to ask questions.
Mm,
Like, and if they do DM or ask questions, like, you don't have to answer them.
right.
Like, you can spout your life story and no one's, and if you want to
Yeah.
disappear for a day or two, like, no one's going to come find you and be like, hey,
Okay.
like, how was that? You know, because like you said, like, you've never met them.
Right.
And so I think sometimes it's like just a little bit easier because you're avoiding that, like the vulnerability.
Interesting.
But then you also get like, you also do get like that connection of like, oh, I'm going through something.
Mm,
And somebody else will be messaging me like, hey, I'm going through that too. And so there's some of
yeah.
that. But I do think a big piece of it is like a little bit, it's like safer almost.
Interesting. Well, I had noticed that with a lot of high school kids of like they're making moves on their crushes, but it's a TikTok trend. And so it's a
Oh,
song and there's a dance that goes with it. And there's like a beat drop where they basically make the move on their friend. And you can tell like these
oh, I've
people
seen
are,
this. Yeah.
yeah, they're best
They're probably
friends and
cute.
they're like, I'm gonna try
Yeah.
kissing my best. And you're like,
Yeah.
this so it's adorable when it
It is cute.
works. A
Yeah.
couple times it goes south, but like most of the time it works. And I think of like when I was a kid, obviously that wasn't a thing. Like
No.
you had to buck up the courage and just do it. If you were gonna go for it, you had to do it for you.
To like pass the note in sixth grade and be
And
like,
then just
check
yes or
yes.
no, circle it. But like it's that thing that like gets them over the hump and gets them to do stuff that, maybe they didn't have the courage to do otherwise. But, you know,
Yeah.
I remember it's sort of like the new YOLO of like, yeah,
Hmm.
YOLO, just
Might as
do it.
well.
Might as
Yeah.
well. You only get the one opportunity.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's beneficial, but I do think it's weird that so many kids, it's like, I hope it's not their only thing, if that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I hope it's not their only outlet
No, I
because
don't
there's a
think it
lot of
is.
people on the internet that are not going to give you good advice.
Right. Right. Obviously. Yeah. I don't know. People give like young people a lot of crap
Hmm,
for screens and technology and stuff. And I sort of don't think it's like all the way justified
I agree.
because I mean, every generation has their thing where they're like, skipping school or they're, doing whatever in the bathroom back in the 70s. Like, everybody's got their thing. They're like out partying, they're past curfew, whatever.
Yeah.
And like teens are, they're going to push the boundaries, like no matter what it is.
Yeah.
But I think like social media and technology, yes, should be limited. Yes, there's things you have to worry about, but like also it's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Like it's part of their life. So like instead of just being like, hey, don't do this,
Mm,
like I think there should be more conversations and education about like A, what are some alternatives? How can we facilitate that?
mhm.
And B, like how to use this safely. I was reading a book over the summer
Jonathan Haidt?
and what?
Is it the Jonathan Haidt one?
No.
Okay.
Um it was a I don't know. I'd have to look at what it was called, but they were talking about how like teens these days like don't have access to like what they call like third spaces. Like when our parents were young and we were young, like
Mm.
you could go to parks, you could go
Right.
like just play down the street, you could like go to the mall, you could
Right.
go like hang out wherever you wanted. And teens like don't have that because like if you have a
Mm,
group of teens at a park, they're like, what are you up to? Or like, if you're congregating at the mall too much, like security will come over and be like, are
mm.
you in trouble? But then also these kids, like some neighborhoods like just aren't safe. to be around, like just hanging out. Like it's not safe to be out till 11 o'clock with your friends doing whatever. Like,
Right.
but then you're also running into like these kids are also like they have so many sports, they have homework, they have like jobs, they have responsibilities. So like sometimes the only time they have to connect with their friends is online because
Yeah.
they don't necessarily have like another space to do that outside of school, and school is obviously school. So
Right. Yeah. Just that opportunity to be with your friends with no cameras and just
yeah,
play, for lack of a better word, just play
no,
around.
yeah, yeah, just hang out.
That was, I mean, that was the thing for my mom when I was growing up. She'd just be like, "Yeah, you've been inside all morning. You're in the after. You'd go outside and you just literally grab a stick and you pretend to be a Jedi or something."
No,
Or
I mean like what, like when we were up at camp, like over the summer, we were just outside, just hanging out.
just hanging
Like,
out.
and those are some of my best memories. Like I'm sure that's probably the same for you too. Like,
Yeah. I mean, to be
and
honest,
even now, like if you're with friends, like the best times you have is when you're just hanging out.
this is the
Like,
thing is like I was thinking about this with the lottery the other night. Like if you won
uh-huh,
$1 billion, right?
yeah,
And you think
uh-huh,
about like what would be the point? Like all my friends are working. You have all the money in the world to do whatever you
hmm
want, but none of my friends can go with me. Like, okay, cool to go
hmm
see the pyramids of Egypt. It would be way cooler to go to a water park with my friends. It's
hmm
going to be way more fun.
yeah,
It's going to be infinitely more fun. It
right,
the what you're doing doesn't matter so much as who you're doing it with
right,
at the end of the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's a great point that there are not those third spaces anymore. Honestly, John Haidt in his book talked about that too, of just not have kids don't play with each other anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't have
I
that
mean,
opportunity to.
and like some of that, like I mean, like you know, my kid doesn't have play dates yet, but like
Yeah.
I'm sure when she does, like I'll probably be like, hey, like where are you going? Like
Hmm.
who's gonna be at this kid's house? Like what's in their house? Like, and parents in the past were just like, all right, see ya. You leave your house at 10 a.m. and you be home by 7, and you have no idea where they are, what they're doing. I
Yeah,
mean, and parents now are, I mean, probably justified a little bit more.
absolutely.
They're they know where their kids are and what they're doing. There's a little bit more control there.
Right. I
And
would
that's a
say too in the
safety
past,
thing,
like
but
those parents didn't have the like, how were they going to track their kids?
right.
Right? Like they just didn't have the option. It wasn't an option for them.
I mean, that's true too. Yeah.
We now that we have the option, it kind like should you be constantly tracking your kid? No, but like my mom can see where any of us are at any given time.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, even like when we were up in Maine this summer, like I had the baby monitor, right?
right.
And grandma was so funny. She's like, "We didn't have that when I was a kid." And she's like, "You just had to like go up and check." And I remember like joking around. We're like, "That's like the original sleep training. Like your kid could be upstairs crying, and you would have no idea."
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like,
everybody in that generation turned out amazingly emotionally stable. They
yeah,
did they did unbelievably
yeah,
well.
yeah. None of them needs therapy. None of them at all.
None of them at all. It's fine. Everything's fine. Have you thought about like social media and phones and that for Bailey?
No, I mean, no. She's so far from that.
Right.
I've listened to podcasts, like some of the experts will say like the biggest thing to do is just like talk about it with your kids as early as you can. Because like even if you're like limiting at home, they're on
Mhm.
the bus, they're at school, their friend in second grade has a phone, and on
Yeah.
recess they're gonna be like, hey, you wanna see what I have on this phone? And if your kid doesn't know they can come talk to you about it, like
Right.
or even just be like, hey, like my friend has a phone, he's in sixth grade, and you're like, okay, well, you're not going to, and here's why. But like, you have to be able to talk to them about it. That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing I think, like with pretty much like anything parenting, is you have to have that conversation with your kids before they have it with their friends at school,
Absolutely true.
even if it's scary and uncomfortable, because they're gonna get it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
would you rather have them get it from you first? Yeah, probably.
Right. I mean, it's like they're about to walk into this room and you know all these things are in there and you're like, hey, I'm just going to preface this. This is what you're going to see. This is what's going to be. Here's how to handle these things. If you have
Yeah.
questions, let me know.
Yeah. Like, hey, if you see this online, if somebody messages you, whatever, and you don't
Yeah,
feel safe, like, come talk to me immediately. Like, I'm
absolutely.
not going to be mad. I'm not going to be like, get upset that was on this website you shouldn't have been on or whatever. Like you have to be able to have that conversation.
How much do you like encounter right now, like parents with just like totally different parenting styles? Or like someone who comes up to you, I'm sure you had it during pregnancy where everyone wants to tell you like, hey, this is what I did and this is what you should
Hmm.
do. And same now with your kid of like, oh, we do this with Timmy. We're, doing whatever new fad thing with him.
Hmm. I like personally have not come into that a lot. Like, I mean, everybody like tells you what they did and what they like, and
Yeah.
I'm honestly guilty of that myself too. You want to share your experiences and whatever.
Right.
That's normal and fine. In terms of like parenting styles that are like totally different from mine, I have not gotten into yet.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she's only 9 months old
Right.
and she's been with me for most of that.
Yeah.
Like, and she goes to daycare, but I don't like interact with the other parents, because I don't really see them too much.
Okay.
Um, we'll like pass each other, we'll pick up, but like we're not like chatting.
Right. I
So,
mean, nobody's making friends. Like, it's not like,
yeah, I mean, I'm not a super like, I'm gonna make a friend in the hallway. Like, that is
yeah, it's
not
like,
me.
well, Bailey's not making friends either. It's not like she's like forming deep personal bonds with any of these
Right.
babies.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that'll come up.
For sure. Like, how much do you encounter? Because I would imagine if I'm a parent, right? And especially if it'd be my first kid, I would imagine like the kid starts to have like a stutter or whatever the issue, right? I could
Mhm.
I could see myself feeling some personal responsibility of like, did I screw this up?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
is this me?
absolutely.
And then going out and being like, I'm gonna take them or not even take them speech language. I'm gonna figure I can fix this. I'm gonna fix
Hmm.
this.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally taking them to you and then coming like, I read this, like, should we be doing this? And then you just be like, you read what?
Yeah. No, I mean, two parts to that is like, yes, I mean, so many people, if a kid is delayed, they're like, like, I did something wrong. Like, I caused this. Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Like Bailey has met all of her milestones, like, literally right on time. But I remember before she started babbling, I was like talking to Sean. I was like, do you think she's like making enough sounds? Like, do you think she's like behind? Like, do you think she's going to talk? Like, I had no reason to think that, but I got nervous.
Right.
Um, and especially if you have like a lot of other friends and your kids, like, the next door neighbor is like telling them your whole life story, and you're like, my kid doesn't talk. Like, that is scary. Um, so yes, people do feel that responsibility, and
Mm.
I'm sure they're with that responsibility comes like, I have to fix this. But then there's also like the stigma of like, oh, my kid has in speech therapy, my kid's in special education, like,
Mm.
I don't want my family to know, or I don't want that label, and that's, you know problematic in its own way.
Yeah. Do you ever have to deal with like people who are like, I'm a doctor? And then they come in and they're like, I'm going to contribute because I have a medical degree. And you go, well, that's good for you, but, you know, being a podiatrist doesn't really help here. It's, I understand. Great, you went to med school and that you understand some science terms that
Some
we're going to
stuff.
throw around here, but this is nothing to do with what you do.
No, I haven't really. I mean, I'm sure that happens. I've been really lucky with the parents I've had generally, like, most of them. And I also feel like I talked to parents in a way that, like,
Yeah.
doesn't make them, like, I don't want to say combative, defensive maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think sometimes, like, if there's a parent who's like a teacher,
Mm.
they'll be like, "Oh, like, it's the way we do it at my school." And if there's like a difference, there's sometimes a little bit of pushback.
Mm.
Um, but I've learned ways to be like, "Oh, we'll try this first, and then if it doesn't work, we'll come back to it." Or like, we'll look at this informally.
Yeah.
We'll circle back. Like the IEP is always changing, so if we need to add something later on,
Yeah. A lot of flexibility here,
a lot of flexibility.
a lot of collaboration.
Yes.
Is this job what you thought it was going to be when you started like studying to be a speech pathologist?
Mm, that's a good question. Yes and no. What I am surprised about is when I first was in grad school, I was like, I'm never going to work in a school district. I don't want to work in a school. I don't want to do like ours. I'm going to like, there's like, I mean, school districts do have like politics that play into it, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that. And here I am working
Yeah.
in a school district, and the plan is to stay here long term. Like, so that does surprise me. It surprises me what I've liked the most. Like, I knew I was gonna like the little kids, but now I'm in high school. I'm like really enjoying it. Like the
Yeah.
more I learn about different things, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'm surprised that I like it. Or even like at my old school with like
Mm.
the kids who have more high support needs, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that, but I
Yeah.
loved it. So
Ah.
it's like surprising me like what I've learned and how much I've liked what I've learned in the field, if that makes sense.
How much do you feel of like what you do and what you know was learned in the field?
So much, so much. I mean, speech therapy is like such a broad thing, and in grad school you can only learn so much.
Yeah.
And like every kid, every client, every student is going to be so different, and so they do a really good job of like teaching you all the general stuff, but you do a lot of learning on the job just because you kind of have to. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like there are speech therapists who like will really give a lot of grad schools like a lot of pushback because they're like, you didn't teach me XYZ in grad school and I had to learn it on my own.
Mm.
But like you can't teach every little nuance things. And I always like go back to when I was in grad school, like we had to have like lesson plans, we had to have like X amount of activities, like we had to, write our notes a certain way. Like it was very structured. And now 7 years in, my therapy is not that structured and I'm not writing lesson plans and I'm like at anything like that. But when I was first learning, that was really, really helpful because then you could like
Yeah.
learn the practice and the theory behind it. And then as you get more comfortable, then you can kind of
Mm.
like ad lib a little bit more and be more flexible and do your own thing.
Yeah.
But when I was like learning, I like really needed that structure because it like anchors you. So you're not like trying to like do so much at once. You're like, I have my plan, I know what I'm doing, and then you can like focus on like doing that,
I've
if that makes
always
sense.
absolutely. I've always heard that like law school, they don't teach you how to practice the law. They teach you how to think about the law. Like
Yeah.
they're essentially teaching you how to think like a lawyer, but they don't teach you like how to do any of the things you need to do in trial. They don't teach
Mm,
you that stuff, you know. And that was my same experience when I was doing kinesiology in my undergrad. When I got to the internship at the end and I walked in and the guy goes, "What do you guys know about like periodizations?" I was like, "Almost nothing." And he goes, "Really?" And I was like, "Is it important?" He goes, "It's 90% of what we do." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." And then like him getting out and being like, they're going to tell you that you should be doing this exercise with people, but the reality is a lot of these kids aren't going to be able to do that exercise because of their sport. They're going to be dominant in these muscles and they're just not going to have
mm,
range of motion,
mm,
or they're going to teach you about like, you know, for like a pitcher, right? They're going to talk to you about like how do you get a pitcher in training and like into shape and like cardiovascular and all that sort of thing. And you're going to be like, well, we could do this and could do that. And then reality, like you don't really need to train them. They need to run like 90 feet. If the healthy individual should
yeah.
be able to do that. And like
Yeah.
it's kind of a waste of your time.
I also think it's like it is hard to like learn that stuff and absorb it if you're not doing it.
100%.
Like I had like an AAC class in grad school. So we like learned the theory, we like learned how to do vocabulary and like feature matching and like all these things. But then at my old school, 80% of my caseload was on like a high-tech AAC device. And I learned on the fly. So like I had a class. I like was familiar, but I was like learning how to program. I was like learning, how to model. I was like learning how to do all these things but I had to be doing that like in real time. And that's like
Mm.
where like I got the most experience was just by doing.
What do you think about like if you like do you think the structure of how you become an SLP is the ideal structure, or do you think this is a job that could serve better from like an undergrad degree plus like an apprenticeship or something?
So
Because
we do kind of have an apprenticeship kind of. So you have an undergrad program, you have a grad program, and after your grad program, you do something called a clinical fellowship.
okay,
I like to describe it almost like as a residency,
oh,
like
okay,
like a doctor, like you're a real doctor, you're getting paid for your job, but like
yeah,
you still have someone over you.
yeah,
That's
just a
what like
double
your
check.
clinical fellowship is. Like you get paid, it's a real job, it's a
Yeah,
position, but you have a supervisor and they have to do so many like supervisory hours and then you could submit it in order to get like fully certified.
yeah. Those
Um
those are my favorite people to see. We were able to at UVA when I was there very, very shortly, like able to check a box that said, "Will you see a resident?" And if you check that box, you can get in and see someone almost like I asked
oh,
to see a
yeah.
dermatologist. I got it. I sent the request in at 9 a.m. I was in the office at 1 p.m. to
There you
see
go.
somebody. And
Yeah.
like my thought process was like, they're so scared they're going to make a mistake that there's no
They're gonna
chance
be
they're going to miss
great.
anything. They are terrified. And they have like, they bring the book in and they're thinking about like the craziest possible one in a billion scenarios in their
Yeah.
head. And they're all freaked out. Like the odds that they're going to miss something is probably lower,
I
actually.
mean that's fair. That's fair. There's speech therapists out there who think like you should be able to like pick a track like medical speech therapist versus like school or like pediatric.
Okay.
I personally don't agree with that because I that would be hard to make a choice early on and
Hmm.
then you're missing the training that you could get. Like there are people who go into grad school and be one of my good friends. She's like, I want to be in a hospital. I want to do swallowing. I want to do like rehab, like ER. Like
Hmm.
now she works at a middle school and like her whole career has been pediatric. And so I think if you like make people choose, I think that's like the nice thing about speech therapy is like you do learn all of it. So like if you want to be a medical SLP for 10 years and then you're like, hey, I need to change, I want to go work in the schools, like you can. And it's not, you don't have to do another fellowship. You don't have, like, if you just get some continuing ed credits, like
Hmm.
there's, there's that, the flexibility of the job is a huge plus.
Hmm.
So is any grad program going to be perfect? Like any profession? No, because you can't learn all of it. But I had a really good experience in grad school. So maybe that's just me being biased, but
There you go. Do you so with swallowing?
yeah.
Are you teaching them like what are you teaching them? Just like how to swallow?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, mostly just making sure they don't choke.
Is it and
But
this
like,
is for
have you
who?
heard of like a barium swallow study?
Yeah, yeah, I did one.
You did one of those?
I've done one, yeah.
Oh, okay. So like like you could it's like an X-ray. You can like see your
Yeah.
swallow. But like yeah, you like learn like different ways. If you position your head different ways, if you just position your neck different ways, you
Yeah.
can like trick it um to like go down the right way. A lot of it is like modifying your diet. So maybe
Oh,
you
okay.
can't have a giant cheeseburger, but you can have mashed potatoes.
Have you read Breathe by James Nestor?
I don't think
It's
so.
it's an interesting book. He does like a little self-experiment in the book where he for 1 week tapes his nose shut so he can only breathe through his mouth, and then the next does the opposite of like basically I'm gonna breathe through my nose as much as possible, essentially.
Okay.
And he does this whole little experiment, blah blah blah. But one of the interesting parts of the book is he goes to France and he goes to these catacombs where there's a lot of, I guess in France, like a lot of skulls. How
Okay.
they got there, we don't need to get into. But
Okay.
lot of skulls under the city, right? That date back a very long time. And one
Okay.
of the things he was talking about was it doesn't make sense that there would be all of these teeth that grow in that then get impacted and need to move, right? And that his hypothesis looking at these skulls was like they have all their teeth. Like they got all their teeth, obviously. Like what are they gonna how are they
Uh-huh.
gonna take them out? Right? It's
Right.
200 years ago. There's no
Right.
dentistry. And so his theory that came out of this was that at some point our food got much better and became far less gamey. And
Right.
we don't have to spend a half hour chewing everything
Chewing.
all the time. But
Yeah.
that the under chewing and the amount of soft foods was causing an underdevelopment of the jaw, and that more chewing would be beneficial. Does that track for you?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I, I that is probably a dentist question.
Okay, I guess that's probably a dentist question. But if yeah, I was thinking more of like it makes sense from like a jaw structure standpoint.
I
I
mean, like
wasn't
you
sure how
learn
much
the
that plays into
anatomy of
like
the
speech.
jaw, like, but I mean, if there's a jaw issue, that's probably like a surgeon or
Okay,
like an orthopedic, and we can come in and be like, hey, like, can you chew this food? And if you can't chew it, then we're going to modify your diet until you can.
interesting. Do you do you ever have to do speech therapy for like accents?
There are therapists that do. Um, I have not, and I honestly, if somebody came to me and asked me, I would not feel comfortable doing that just because I wouldn't know how.
Okay,
Um, I mean, it's one of those things I technically learned how to do in grad school, but I have not done it since. Um, and that goes into like speech science and voice and like
yeah.
sound waves and like all of that. And I is not an area of strength for me. But yeah, people will.
Is it this
We had
usually
we
to
had some
like
clients.
reduce accents?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was in grad school, we had a clinic like on our college campus, and so there was a lot of like Chinese students that would come and study at our
Mm,
university, and some of them would come to the clinic and want to do like accent reduction.
interesting.
So
That makes sense.
I
I
mean,
was
yeah.
thinking more like, like I was thinking like people like if you catch someone with a real thick Maine accent, it is very hard to understand them. But that makes way more sense of this someone from another country where the English
Mhm.
trying to speak it can be very difficult because of whatever, like you said, like vocal differences between how we speak and pronounce our
Yeah.
languages.
And if you're trying to get like a job or things like
Right.
that, like obviously interviewing is going to be difficult if you can't be understood, if you're not able to be understood, and some people like
Yeah.
want to assimilate into the culture more than others. Like
Hmm.
that's that's another thing. It's like it's a difference, not a disorder. So you're like not treating it because it's wrong. It's just like
Right. Well, kind of gets back to what you were saying earlier, just the frustration of two people trying to communicate with each other that can't for
yeah.
no fault of either of them. And
Hmm.
just the frustration that comes out of that because they both feel dumb and frustrated
Right.
and they're like, I just want a burger. I just want a
Yeah.
burger. That's
Yeah.
all I
And
want.
I can't communicate it, and then you get frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I moved to Sweden, the Swedish that I
I
learned, I
forgot
didn't
you lived
find,
there.
yeah, I'll never forget that. That was a wild time. But while I was there, the Swedish that I learned was technically like hillbilly bumpkin Swedish, but I don't know. I don't know that. I'm just like learning
Okay.
what I'm
Whatever
learning.
they're teaching you. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I got. Like, yeah, I learned nothing from 3 months of Duolingo, almost nothing. I learned everything from the actually being there and like not having a choice.
Right. Yeah.
And um, I didn't really like know that was the case until I came back to the States. And there were some Swedish people at the university that were from like Stockholm, which would be like,
The city. Yeah.
yeah, city, much higher class and that sort of thing. And so I would speak Swedish to them, and they would be like, "What's going on with this? This is," and I'd be like, "No, this is what I was taught when I got there." And I always think about that of like if somebody, from where, like, let's from France, right? Two
Hmm.
comes here and they go to the deep south and they just learn the deep southern English. And then they go back and they run into, somebody from New York and they just start hitting them with hillbilly English. How
How off-putting that might be. Yeah.
off-putting that would be for them. Like, where were you?
What did you learn?
What were you learning? You did like a study abroad program or something?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Oh gosh. So, with speech therapy,
Hmm.
when some kid comes in,
Yeah.
what is generally like the step-by-step process that you go through from the time they come in? Obviously, I'm assuming you know what their issue is ahead of time.
Like from evaluation or like
Yes,
first day of treatment?
like evaluation of how you figure
Okay.
out like how we're going to go about treating this.
I mean, so usually like when somebody comes in, like you have an intake form that the parent will fill out. Sometimes if the parent doesn't fill it out, then you just like have, your general tests. Like there's a couple tests that and you're like, hey, if I give these tests, it'll give us a good picture and you
Hmm.
can give them to any kid. Or you like do a screen and be like, okay, so their language looks good, but their speech sounds need help.
Hmm.
So you would do that, get like their history, and then look at the tests and then just kind of go from there. So it's like a lot of observation and then standardized testing and non-standardized testing too.
Hmm.
There's like some not controversy about standardized testing, but um, it does have its limitations sometimes. But yeah, I mean, we have tools that we use to to parse things out, and then you get really good at like I met a kid last week for the first time, and within 5 minutes of knowing him, I was like, "Yep, now I know what we're doing in speech this year." like, like you get really good at like being able to pick things up.
Yeah. Is the standardized testing just like questions they fill out? Is it like more of like a physical where you do like physical things with them?
I mean, if you're doing like speech, you can do like an oral mech exam. So you're like, look at their tongue, do they have a cleft palate? Like, are their teeth kind of funky? Because like sometimes that makes a difference. But they're like, I mean, these companies make these tests.
Okay.
How they do it, I'm honestly not sure. But you have all these questions like, hey, like the girl has a cookie. Who has a cookie? And they're supposed to say the word she for like pronouns or like you have a picture of a car, say car. Can they say car? Do they say tar? Like,
Yeah.
and then you like, you know, score it up, do they get five right, 10 right, whatever. And then you get a score and it's like a bell curve. So, 85 to 115 is like typical within normal limits and anything outside of that. Um, if it's like a 70, then all right, they're okay. If it's like a 55, like, all right, they're really severe.
At what point, like, how far out of normal does a kid have to be to get in to see you? Because if a
So
kid's
that de-
kind of like borderline.
so it depends on like the state or like schools have different regulations, like state have different requirements, like private practices, obviously they're private, so they have a lot more latitude in what they can take.
Hmm.
When I was in preschool, the rule was you had to have a score of a 77 and a half or below.
Hmm.
So, or you wouldn't qualify. So you had to have that score. Now I kind of look at like anything below 85, I'll consider having on my caseload. Um, and then like look at other things. You're like, okay, if this kid scored an 80 on his speech sounds, but if I could test him, like if I like tell him how to say it, he can do it. And like,
Hmm.
all right, he's probably developing and he'll be fine without me.
Hmm.
Um, so some of it is like clinical judgment, but it depends. Like some states and school districts are more strict than others. There has to be a limit at some point because at that point, every kid will qualify for speech for like every little thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I only have so many hours in the day.
How often are you able to graduate kids?
Pretty often. I work really hard to dismiss kids
And
as
get
soon
them
as I
out.
can
Gotcha.
because dismissing kids can be a pain in like terms of like paperwork. But
Yeah.
then if you don't dismiss kids, you're always getting kids added to your caseload. So then just that number gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So you have to like work on dismissing kids. I have got a handful of kids this year that I'll dismiss because they're high schoolers. And you're like, you're in high school, you don't want to be in speech therapy your entire high school career.
Right.
Um, I had a mentor when I was worked in preschool who would always tell parents like your kid is in speech therapy until they don't qualify, not until they're perfect. And I kind of always
Right.
keep that in the back of my mind.
Yeah. It's the same thing with so many therapies of,
Hmm.
you often don't leave physical therapy perfect. It's just
No,
like,
yeah,
no, you're considered good enough now,
yeah,
and you kind of have to take it the rest of the way.
yeah,
But
yeah.
hopefully you've been paying attention to some of the things we've been doing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I
Keep
mean,
it
and
going.
it's not like if you graduate speech, like you can't ever come back. Like if you need to
Right.
come back, like sure, we'll take you. But I guess
Did you ever end up finishing that podcast? I can't think of the name now, but the one with the ESP.
I never listened to it.
I think we talked about this once, but
Yeah, you texted
they
me about it,
they
and
did.
I didn't listen to it because I felt like I was gonna get angry, and I also just don't have time to.
I'll say this. They did convince me that animals could potentially have ESP.
Hmm.
That was very convincing. The evidence with the elephants and the dogs was there's something there.
Yeah,
That was very convincing to me. The evidence in humans was less so. And you know,
I think there's like too many like what's the word I'm looking for? Um, like conflicting, not biases, like variables in
yes.
humans. Because you've got all the psychology, and you've got all your biases, and you've got all your like experiences, and you're like,
Right. I think
I,
that's definitely the case is what I think that's what I was trying to find the words for is that I think they want that to be the outcome.
mhm. And if you're in a study like that, you probably do too.
Yeah, for sure. Because the implications would be awesome. You have like this
Yeah,
superpower. You
you're
went
like they
from
found out that I can read minds.
amazing, unbelievable, like huge. Like the thing is that you know the there was a time period during like the 70s and the 80s where this became a big phenomenon in the
Hmm.
culture. We got really into can people read minds? I think if anyone's ever seen Ghostbusters, the original, they'll see
Hmm.
in the beginning they're doing the cards sort of thing. And that was like real tests and the all these institutions tried to really get into like can people see into the future? Can people
Hmm.
project themselves into other places? And the thing is like if it worked,
People be doing it.
we'd be doing it. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing of one thing I'll never forget from undergrad was they asked us why people do steroids. And we were like, oh, they'll be bigger to cheat, blah, 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 like
Hmm.
that. And they were like, no, but like, why do they use steroids? And like, eventually we were like, well, why? And the teacher goes, because they work. They work
Hmm.
extremely
Yeah.
well. They
Yeah.
work so incredibly well. That's why people do them. Like,
Yeah.
people would do it if it worked. And, you know, if people could do it, and if it was a skill that could be trained, there would be 1,000 people out there selling courses. Tony Robbins
Hmm.
would be teaching you at these little weekend event getaways for $10,000. Like it would be a thing. But
Yeah. I mean, like all these like oh, like I was saying earlier, like parents would like seek out like apps or whatever. Like here, this app will make your kid talk. Like,
hmm.
well, if the app actually did teach your kid to talk, I would be out of a job. But but you can't get enough of speech therapists.
It's the same
We're
with
in
those like
demand.
the same with those like IQ apps too. They're like, oh, it's gonna make you 5 IQ points smart. I'm like, no, it's gonna teach you how to do a specific game. You're
Right.
gonna get really good at finding numbers in a letter puzzle or something, but other than that,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get better at much.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if there were transient ways to improve IQ, everyone would be doing it.
Hmm.
This is what I think about with what's his face? Brian Johnson, the Don't Die guy. Have you seen this guy?
No.
He was I forget what he sold. He had a tech company. Sold it for like $6 billion, right? So now
Hmm.
he's a billionaire. And he decided he's going to turn himself into a guinea pig. And he's going to try every single medical therapy that has any sort of a study that says it could do any sort of anything good to extend your life, right?
It's just the guy that like wants to freeze himself.
This could be the same guy. There's actually two Brian Johnsons. There's Brian with a Y and Brian with an I. Brian with
That's
a Y
confusing.
is a vegan. This is the guy I'm talking about, a vegan billionaire. The other
Okay.
one is the carnivore liver king dude.
Okay.
But they're both Brian Johnson.
If
If
your
you meet
last
a
name
Brian
Johnson, don't
Johnson,
name your kid Brian.
don't name your kid Brian. It's a 50-50. He's going to go one way or the other, and neither is the way you want him to go. But he is just trying all of these crazy therapies. And it's actually like he was doing blood transfusions with his son.
Jeez.
He was doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Like I couldn't even tell you, right? And he takes his blood work and he monitors and he reports on himself. It's a one of one study. And it's like, we wouldn't recommend you do this, but can you share the science? Because it is kind of interesting to see what happens if, you have the
Yeah.
money, I guess. If you want to do this, then go for
Yeah.
it. But um, it's that thing of, how many of these therapies that come along that like seem cutting edge and seem amazing, and then in 20 years we're gonna be like, yeah, that would be taking years off your life doing that.
Yeah.
A horrible idea. Like people back in the day, um, back in like the 1800s, I'm reading a book about it right now about how awful life was pretty much during that time. And they were
Yeah.
talking about how if you
Everyone
were
died.
rich or you were poor, you had the worst, like it was a bell curve of life expectancy because poor people could afford no medicine, so they
Right.
died. And rich
Okay.
people could afford medicine that had like mercury and arsenic in it, and
Oh,
they died too
all the experimental stuff.
because they were poisoning themselves and they had no idea. One of my favorite skills I ever learned was when I was at Northwestern. Part of my job was reading studies that were had to do with organ transplant
Hmm.
and sending like new ones to my doctor, like if something interesting popped up, right?
Right.
And it's knowing what the impact factor of the journal is, right?
Hmm.
And then being able to assess what is the difference between 5 and 2, right?
Right.
And how do you read a study and what does it mean when it's, a randomized trial versus a placebo-controlled trial versus
Hmm.
a meta-analysis?
Right. Right.
And how much do these things mean? What do population sizes mean?
Hmm.
And methods and all of these other things and like these extrapolations.
It's like a
And
lot. You have to like be really smart to read those things.
it's a whole other, just knowing science isn't enough. There's a
It's like
whole,
it's a huge skill set.
it's a huge skill set to learn how to read them. And the frustrating thing is most of them are going to end in we need
It
more
doesn't.
research.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be inconclusive or needs to be
Hmm.
explored further. Or
Right.
if they come through and they have a good result, then it's
Like
like
let's
needs to be
explore it
confirmed.
more.
Needs to be
Right.
confirmed, right? And it just takes so long. And I totally get the wanting the quick fix. Like,
Yeah.
I've been very sick myself. Like I would
Hmm.
love if there was a quick fix, but the reality is it's going to take years and years and years to figure this stuff out.
Right.
Because if we don't do that, then we end up drinking mercury.
Right.
Here's a good question. How do you determine the health stuff? Like, where do you draw the line of like, maybe it would make my life 5% better, but I don't have time to do that?
Like in my job or my real life.
Both. Because you now have a responsibility of like a child. So like you don't have time to do a 3-hour morning fitness alignment routine.
No. No. Um, I, to be honest, don't buy into a lot of like the wellnessy stuff just to begin with. Like, I'm in that nice middle section where,
Yeah.
I can afford healthcare, but I'm not gonna pay $800 for like a charcoal supplement, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I take care of myself. Like, I go to the doctors. Like, I get, medicine when I need it. Like,
Yeah.
I the Halloween fruity pebbles in my pantry does not scare me. Like, I don't know. I'm not, I just, it's just not something that I
Yeah.
put too much like credence in. Like,
Yeah.
I'm healthy. I've been healthy. Like, I'm lucky to be that way. Like,
Mhm.
I haven't had a need to like seek out all the other health stuff.
I was wondering if
Like,
like pregnancy would have maybe of like, do I need to do anything extra?
I mean, like you're supposed to take like extra, like a prenatal vitamin, like that's
Yeah.
just got like, your extra nutrients because the baby sucks all of the nutrients that you eat.
Yeah.
So you need it extra. But other than that, like I had a really easy pregnancy. Like
Mm.
I hadn't really have any complications. Like also blood pressure meds for like 2 months after I had her, but like I haven't like had a need for like anything extra,
Do you have like
if
a
that makes
self-care
sense.
routine that you like to keep to, or you like, I don't have, that's not happening.
No, I mean, I shower and that's a nice break. Like, like I go for walks, I'll get a coffee
Yeah.
and not feel bad about it. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
I like, should I do more? Yes. Like I go to the gym, like I go to Zumba on Thursdays and I enjoy that.
mm,
Like that's for me. Like I read my book, like I watch TV, but
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, those are the things that really do a lot. If you can stay
yeah,
moving, if you can stay active, if you
yeah,
can eat mostly well,
yeah.
and you can get
Like
some,
we had a salad for dinner tonight, like,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll
It's,
probably have like I packed a chocolate bar in my lunch today. I didn't eat it, but it was
yeah.
there.
I mean, there's plenty of good things in cocoa. Like, cacao has tons of like good polyphenols and stuff in it that are great for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Blueberries, like same thing. Yeah. It's
yeah. I
you
don't put
just
like a ton of, I don't know. Like when we were in Maine, like like Molly was watching Bailey over at Sand Beach, and she let Bailey accidentally eat a rock, and I was like, okay, it's fine.
I
Like
think back
she'll
to that,
survive.
like I used to eat Play-Doh.
I think she ate a leaf today.
It's
And
hey, that's
Sean was
fiber.
like, I'm tired of taking things out of your mouth, so you could
That's
just
fiber.
stop it.
That's some good old fiber right there. We all
I'm
need more
like,
of it.
I mean, maybe it's like the confirmation bias of like, we've all been fine.
Right.
And whether or not that's a good thing, I don't know. But
Right. I mean, it's one of my favorite books is called Fatal Conveniences by
mhm,
Darren Olean.
okay.
And he talks about, things that make your life easier,
Hmm.
objectively make your life better. But yeah, they might be contributing to some negative side effects for some
Yeah.
people, right? Of They might be contributing to some people getting cancer or this or that, right? But the main point of the book is like, are you willing to accept what it means to give those things up?
Yeah.
Because it's going to make your life a lot harder if, for example, like, um, one of the things he talked about was women's makeup and women's beauty
hmm
products, right? And he goes, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about caking yourself in chemicals, he goes, it's always ironic to me to be in Hollywood and be in LA and hear an actress who's just caked in all these chemicals talking about, how she needs to avoid antibiotics that are in the meat that she eats, right? And he goes,
Uh-huh.
the least of your problems considering the things that you have on, right?
Right.
And he said, like, if you want to go full no makeup, like you can totally do that. But like it could negatively affect your life. Like, you're not going to be able to cover up blemishes and, you're going to look different from people in photo. And like, that's a very real thing you have to deal with.
I like I think about this like Amazon. Like,
Yeah.
is Amazon problematic? Probably to some extent, but like
Yeah.
it's so easy.
So
Like
convenient.
I can like order like a tool that Sean needs to work on the car and diapers and like a new outfit for me and like a toy and like all these things in like one order. And like I was like, it's
It's
just
unbelievable.
it's just so easy and like
I
don't
lived,
make it if you're gonna make it so convenient.
I know. I
like
lived
and
right next to a distribution center in Chicago and like things were there the same day. And coming
yeah,
back to Maine, knowing I was going to have to wait 3 to 5 days for something, I was like, I might stay here and risk it. Like the convenience is unparalleled.
I
The
know. It's like,
drone
yeah,
bringing you
yeah,
whatever and just dropping it off and off it
yeah.
goes. You can't
I
beat
know.
that.
I know. Yeah,
I mean, when
like
you go to other
like
countries, you feel it
AI,
too.
like
Oh,
ChatGPT. Like I've used ChatGPT every day at work this week,
yeah.
and
It's if you, it's
problematic,
unbelievable
yes,
tool.
but like it helps and it makes it easy. And
Mm.
like I got so much on my mind these days that I'm like how do I like explain planning to high schoolers? And
Yeah.
it's like a nice little outline, and I'm like, oh, this is my perfect start. Like perfect. Like
Oh,
this is exactly what I needed.
it's the
But I
best.
know it's not great,
I mean,
but it's right there.
it's I think people don't understand what AI is.
Yeah,
I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because like they were worried that it was becoming like sentient. And because it
right,
had said some things to some engineers or whatever, right? The the machine is trained on public data,
right,
right? And so when you ask it something, it references that. So if you ask
right,
it, are you going to turn on us? And it goes and it references the public data and it sees all these movies we've made about AI turning on us and says, well, this seems to be the most likely response. That's what
right,
I'm going to respond with. Then
right.
it is. And you're going to go, oh, and the computer's going to be, it has no idea. It has no
And it
thoughts.
tries to like guess what you want it to say too.
Right. So if you kind
Like
of
it's like
secretly want that, like, I don't think you're
it's like
as
that subtle way you word it. Yeah.
right. You're not as sneaky as you think. Not as sneaky as you think. Like, I remember during COVID when we'd do hockey, they would tell us like you can't spit on the
Hmm.
ice because of we don't want to be transmitted. This was like very early days of
Hmm.
COVID. And they were like, you can't spit on the ice. And I was like, not a problem. I never spit on the ice. And then about 5 minutes in, I'm like, I spit on the ice all the time. This is crazy. Or when they said like, don't touch your face, and you're like, I never
Hmm.
touch my face. I touch my face like once a hour, like once
Oh
every
yeah.
5 minutes. These things you just don't realize you're doing. I'm
Hmm.
like, you're the way you're talking to the AA, you're
Yeah.
not realizing it, but you're telling it what you want to hear.
Right. Yeah.
Do
But
you
yeah,
use AI? Is AI helpful with kids who are less verbal or struggle with
I have
communication?
not I have not used it for that. I'll use it for my own planning.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know. Jury's out on that. I have not gone into that realm. I'm
Have
sure
you
it could
heard
be,
have you heard
but
about any like ventures in that area of like
I have not. No, I don't know.
interesting.
It'd probably be pretty cool. It's probably honestly like a little bit of ways off, but like if you were able to like program, if you could use AI to like program devices based on what they're using and what you're searching for, I bet that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
Or
like
even just some
adding
sort of like
vocabulary or
translation. You know what I mean? Like act as an
like
intermediary of like,
I think there's like technology out there that like kind of does that. Like those
okay,
like Google glasses or whatever. Like you'll like pop see a video on the internet every once in a while, be like, oh, like this it like transmits your thoughts or I don't know.
yeah.
Um, that's obviously not mainstream and it's not been
A lot of
probably
it's like
tested
those
widely
demo
enough.
videos for like investor
Yeah,
meetings though, where they're
yeah,
just, you know, where, Tesla comes out and shows their robot like helping
right,
grandpas cook and all that stuff. And then you see
right.
the robot in real life and it can barely stand up. And you're like, so
Yeah.
what happened in the video? And they're like, yeah, we're working on it. I'm like, okay, but
Or it's gonna be like super expensive and you're like, no
yeah,
person's gonna buy this for their like kid who's gonna throw it across the room. Like,
you can have this thing that is like moderately helpful for $30,000.
right.
Like,
And it
okay.
might break and there's no way to fix it.
Yeah, we don't know how to fix it.
But
But it could potentially pick up a book
yeah,
if that's
I don't know.
something you're interested in.
Who knows? But
Oh
yeah,
my
it's
gosh.
interesting. It's an interesting thought for sure.
Yeah, I'd wonder because like obviously the kid would be able to spend a lot of time with the machine,
Yeah.
right? And
And
be able to try to communicate, and the machine would have the opportunity to like learn to communicate with that kid and
Yeah, you'd
theoretically
have to
provide some
like have like
insights.
you'd have to have like the perfect person to do that.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, there's so many factors that you just have to, yeah, maybe one day, who knows?
we
But
can only
like I
hope.
said before, there's not a good replacement for like human interaction.
No, humans are never going. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. And I was watching an interview with what's his name, Sam Altman, the guy who owns
Mhm.
the whole thing, and they
Yeah.
were asking him like what jobs are going to go away, and he was given his whole like preamble, whatever, and then he goes, some jobs that aren't going to go away anytime soon. He goes nursing because I guess people are probably going to want to see a human or something, even if the AI is better. And I'm like, he's so bitter about it that people are going to, yes, as they're dying, they would like to speak with another human.
Yes,
That is the case. Yes. And he's like, whatever.
that's fine.
I
But
guess if that's what floats your boat, sure.
anyway, I should probably
Yes. Thank you
get to bed soon.
very, very much for doing this. I appreciate it. This was
Yeah,
a lot of
no,
fun.
it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to
Let me
plug
know
your
when it comes out.
SLP Instagram for everybody?
Yes, I don't have a lot of followers, but at your neighborhood SLP, just one word.
Perfect.
I pop on there sometimes. Maybe I'll get more active. Who knows? It depends.
All right.
We'll
Cool.
see.
All right. Bye, everybody.